I observed in my Realm of the Mammoth Lords video, in which I provided a full history of the Kellid people, that despite being a people that once dominated central Avestan, the Kellids are now the dominant peoples in only 4 countries. In the Realm of the Mammoth Lords, where they cling to their ancient nomadic ways, herding large megafauna across the frozen tundra. In the Sarkora Scar, where the shattered Sarkorian diaspora try to reclaim ground against the legions of demons that poured through the world wound. In the strange nation of Numeria, where the Kellid clans wage a ceaseless war against the strange aliens and robots that spilled out of the crashed starship Divinity, and finally in the nation of Druma. Of all the nations with a Kellid majority population, the Drumish Kellids, who refer to themselves as the Palakari people, are by far the most removed from their ancestral culture. Various factors have played into this cultural transformation. First, a history of occupation and colonization at the hands of the dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains. Then, occupation and colonization at the hands of the Taldan Empire. And finally, the emergence of the prophets of Kalistrade as the ruling elite of Druma when they achieved their independence through the signing of the Curse Accord. It is this last event that radicalized the nation, giving them a completely unique culture among the nations of Central Avestan. This new religion, referred to as the Kalistocracy, has infiltrated all aspects of Drumish society. Taking the worst aspects of an elite social club and religion, they spread their dogma through the words of their founding prophet Kalistrade, who's been dead for 1,000 years. They exert power through wealth, and dwell inside some of the most protected mansions in the world, with legions of Galarian's most elite soldiers at their beck and call. Yet everything is related. Years of subjugation at the hands of foreign powers led the Drumish people to a very particular form of independence, one that is paranoid, wealth-obsessed, and steeped in religion. How did we get here? To understand this, we need to take a look at Drumish history. But before I cover my history section, I should note that I've already discussed the history of Druma in my videos before. My Dwarf Ancestry Guide video, one of my earliest videos on the channel actually, provides a pretty thorough accounting of the dwarf occupation of Druma, so I'll try not to cover too much of the same ground in this video. Instead, I'll move fairly quickly through the history section until we get to the point that the Kalistocracy starts to come to power. The history of Druma. Like most nations of central Avestan, prior to Earthfall, Druma had been occupied by the Kellid people, and they lived there as they lived much in the rest of the world, as nomadic herders and hunters. However, as the population swelled in this region north of the Five Kings Mountains, they, like the Sarkorians, began to settle into small agricultural communities. Notably, the earliest settlements included the village of Macready, from which there emerged the Macready blade culture, and the now lost city of Eaprin, which was also located in the Palakar Forest. These villages would likely have been founded any time between 800 to 1,000 years prior to the Earthfall Cataclysm, which helps indicate just how ancient a culture the Kellids had before the Cataclysm. One Thessalonian account records a visit to the lost city of Eaprin, and indicates that the Kellids there had once waged a war with the Fae of the Palakar Forest, before signing a peace accord with them. This is supposed to have happened some 400 years prior to the Earthfall Cataclysm. Then the Starstone fell, and cracked the world in -5293. The Earthfall Cataclysm forced the Kellids into the natural cave systems of the Five Kings Mountains. But even before the Age of Darkness had ended, brave Kellids ventured back out into the darkened world and began resettling the region that would become Druma. This would not last for long, as just shy of 300 years after the Cataclysm, the Orcs came to the surface. As described in my recent Hold of Belkzen video, the Orcs' superior night vision made them a deadly threat to the Kellids of the ancient world, and the Orcs freely raided them for food and supplies. North of the Five Kings Mountains, the Orcs threatened to wipe out the Kellid tribes altogether, and they might have done so were it not for the intervention of another power. Emerging from the Five Kings Mountains, the forces of the dwarves breached the surface 26 years after the Orcs did. They immediately helped rally the Kellids and waged a measured, strategic, and careful war against the Orcs, using the same methodical approach that had proved so effective at wiping them out of the underground regions they planned to occupy and move through in their quest for the sky. By -4890, the dwarves and the Kellids had pushed the Orcs east of Druma, establishing the modern Drumish boundaries. It was the dwarves who gave this land its name, Druma, meaning the Silver Shore, and although it was a decisive victory against the Orcs, it was a bit of a hollow victory for the Kellid humans, who soon learned the dwarves had no intent to relinquish the land back to them. Establishing their western battle lines along the curve of the Duskshroud Peninsula, the dwarves established defensive positions at the port of Detmer and at the end of the Menador Mountains. The entire region was incorporated into the broader dwarf empire known as Tar Targath. Dwarven occupation was initially viewed as preferable to orc occupation by the Kellids, but not for long. The first Drumish rebellion occurred in minus 4866. The dwarves also clashed with the Palakar Fae due to the extensive lumber mining operations which enraged the forest's natives. The local forest satyrs began to demand tolls for access to the lumber, which the dwarves saw as brigandry, and they refused to pay. The satyrs responded by kidnapping several dwarven trespassers, leading to 17 years of armed conflict starting in minus 4411, known as the Charcoal Wars. Despite the conflicts with the Kellids and the Fae, dwarven rulership over Druma remained functionally uncontested for millennia. This area continued to supply Tartargath with large quantities of food, and numerous dwarven engineering projects such as the Aqueduct of Galdorn, the network of roads, and the drainage of Haybarstall Marsh survive to this day. 3 more armed conflicts occurred during this period: the decades-long Whisperfall offensive against the Orcs, and the Second and Third Drumish rebellions, though few records survive about these latter 2 conflicts. The city of Detmer continued to prosper as a dwarf haven on human lands until rising water levels caused much of it to sink beneath Lake Carthen in minus 985. The Fourth Drumish rebellion occurred at the dawn of the Age of Enthronement. In the year 113, Kellid separatists raised an army that tried to march on High Helm. This was a fool's errand. The dwarves knew the terrain far better than the humans could, and the sky citadels of the dwarves were impregnable. Emperor Hurugnar, the Steelbrow, quashed the Fourth Drumish rebellion. He also decreed that humans should be denied beards and beer, and the legacy of this decree can still be felt in Druma today, where beer is rarely drunk, and most men choose to be clean-shaven. It is in this context, in the year 187, after 4 failed attempts at independence, that a man was born in Druma who would rise to great influence in the land. Born into a wealthy family of bookbinders and guilders, Kalistrade was ready to inherit the family business when he fell quite ill at the age of 34. For weeks he was bedridden and delirious, only awakening to write incomprehensible notes before losing consciousness again. After recovering, he became unusually severe and focused. He sold his inheritance to his siblings and left Druma. Kalistrade's 8-year journey included travels through Taldor, through the remnants of the old Kellid Kingdoms, as well as through Absalom and even as far as western Kelesh. During his time, he began compiling his dream visions. Of particular interest to Kalistrade upon his return was the Macready blade culture, the oldest Kellid culture in Druma, which I already mentioned in my history section. Kalistrade travelled to the modern city of Macready, built atop the ancient ruins of the old Kellid settlement. Archaeological evidence was sparse, but it was clear other cultures had grossly underestimated the sophistication of the ancient Kellids of that land. Indeed, lack of written records meant it was not even known by what name this society used for itself. The Macready blade culture is actually a modern name, assigned after the study of the characteristic stone blades associated with its sites and the modern town of Macready, where these were first found. The Macready blade people were known to have an extensive trading network, thanks to their access to Lake Carthen and its associated waterways. Macready blade sites yielded pots of food from Gastache, soapstone tools from the World's Edge Mountains, wooden carvings from Keonin, and freshwater shells from as far as the Lake of Mists and Vales. Additionally, the Macready blade culture developed its own techniques for working copper and gold, and domesticated variants of millet, plum, sorghum, and vetch that are still cultivated to this day. It was Kalistrade that learned that this culture followed religious leaders who were known as the Speakers of the Pale. The Speakers followed a belief system focused on mutual relationships between individuals and communities. They extended this view into humanity's relationship with the natural world and, significantly, with the afterlife. The Speakers served as intermediaries between their people and the Fae of the Palakar Forest, negotiating for the harvesting of resources in exchange for compensation. The Speakers themselves were found to have been ritualistically buried within the Darklands cave systems beneath the Palakar Forest, and were believed to have served as protectors from the creatures living in the underground. This rediscovery of the Drumish industrious tradition and the lore about the Speakers of the Pale, combined with Kalistrade's own feverish and often magical dreams, would become the basis of the Prophecies of Kalistrade, an influential book among the Drumish Kellids, which sought to both reconnect them with their lost history and also look forward to a prophesied future in which they would have independence and power, secured not by strength of arms, but by strength of relationships, secured by trade and wealth. In 1551, the Dwarven Empire of Tartargath collapsed. In its place, 5 separate kingdoms emerged, and the Drumish colony was correspondingly split among the Dwarven successor states. In the wake of Dwarven disarray, a secret society of disciples who had taken the words of the prophecies of Kalistrade to heart began to meet in secret. By 1580, they had established their society, the Kalistocracy, and planned a way to secure Drumish independence following the path laid out for them by the founding prophet. In 1644, the Kalistocrats purchased the ruins of Detmer. In a few short years, they rebuilt it into a thriving port. Over the next 500 years, using the techniques outlined in their sacred tome, the Kalistocrats of Detmer acquired substantial wealth. Then in 2133, Taldor's 7th Army of Exploration set its sights on Isger and Druma. With the dwarves divided and dealing with their own internal divisions, see my dwarf ancestry guide for more details on their own challenges, the Taldans had no trouble securing the land for themselves. Suddenly finding itself under Taldan occupation, the Kalistocrats set their plan into motion. They began to loan money out to the dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains. The dwarves eagerly took these loans, as they needed to both deal with internal challenges and they hoped to challenge Taldor to reclaim the Drumish territories they believed still rightly belonged to them. Dwarf and Taldan conflict sparked across the land, but remained relatively tempered, as the Kalistocrats began to play both sides against each other to keep things balanced. By 2331, dwarves had amassed sufficient armies, funded by Kalistrade coin, to issue an edict and demand the Taldan occupiers leave Druma. That's when the Kalistocrats decided to put the final phase of their plan into motion. Per the terms of their loans, the Kalistocrats executed their option to call in dwarven debts, and they did so all at once. The dwarves could not pay. The dwarf sense of honor was working against them here. Finally, the Kalistocrats brought all parties to the table. The dwarf army could challenge the Taldans in the region for dominance, but the dwarf army was funded by the Kalistocrats. The Kalistocrats presented their final terms. The dwarf debts would be forgiven, they said, but the Taldans would have to leave. Druma would become an independent nation. The following year, in 2332, the Curse Accords were signed, with these terms agreed to by all parties exactly as laid out. Druma was independent at last, exactly as Kalistrade himself had divined it would, using methods and traditions he believed dated back to the most ancient Kellid people of their land. Only days after the Curse Accord, Drumish representatives convened to establish a government. Toasts to the Kalistocrats' financial coup echoed throughout Curse, and the white-garbed Kalistocrats deftly steered the convention to establish themselves as a controlling power in the new, resplendent bureaucracy. The Kalistocrats enjoyed just under 3 years of can-do-no-wrong prestige before the Drumish working class began to realize they had just traded in one autocracy for another. Human or dwarf, the rich got richer, and the poor were stepped on. This led to, in 2335, the Burning Glove riots that ravaged Curse and forced the Kalistocrats to change their taxation methods. They revised key laws to substantially increase opportunities for upward mobility. In defense of the Kalistocrats, they listened more readily to their constituents than the dwarves did. The measures appeased most Drumans, and the young country enjoyed more than a century of prosperity, with only minor growing pains after that. Still, this was not the only time the Drumish would revolt against the Kalistocrats. In 2487, a revolutionary group inspired by the anti-religious Laws of Man established in Rahadum began to secure influence in the resplendent bureaucracy. This faction viewed the Kalistocrats, somewhat correctly, as a religious autocracy, and felt that decoupling their government from the Kalistrade philosophy would strengthen the nation. This group, called the Unsullied Hand, was expertly pushed back out of the government by the Kalistocrats over the next few years. Likely inspired by the failed Unsullied Hand coup and recognizing the need to have a standing security force when subtle means of assuring victory could not be counted on, in 2493 the Kalistocrats' private mercenary company, known as the Mercenary League, accepted a perpetual contract with the new nation's ruling elite, effectively becoming the new standing army of Druma. Among the League, the most elite and well-equipped warriors were known as the Blackjackets, who dedicated themselves to training in small unit tactics, renowned for their ability to overcome foes that greatly outnumbered them. The Kalistocrats have earned substantial moneys in loaning out the Blackjackets to other countries over the years, such as to the Elves of Keonin during the war with Tree Razor, or the Dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains during their various civil strifes and conflicts with the Orcs. Speaking of the Dwarves, in 3297 the Five Kings Mountains were reunited under the leadership of the dwarf unifier Cadon the Mighty. His new united empire, known as Tar Kaderm, lasted for over 600 years, but it ended suddenly and abruptly when the volcano known as Droskar's Crag erupted, devastating the empire's new capital city. What followed was a terrible civil war known as the Forge War among the dwarves. A rising power in the wake of the Forge War was a Droskari theocracy, so unsurprisingly, as that dark religion began to spread, many dwarves fled the Five Kings Mountains and emigrated to Druma. This created an unusual situation in Druma, where thousands of displaced dwarves, who had 1,000 years previously been viewed as conquerors and colonizers, came to be second-class citizens in the newly independent Druma. Once again, the prophecies of Kallistrade proved themselves adaptable to changing conditions. The teachings of the prophet urged the Drumish to set aside old grudges and welcome the migrants. Indeed, thousands of dwarf professionals came to the kingdom and brought with them vital skills that could help grow and strengthen the Drumish economy. Over time, these displaced dwarves would become a core part of the new Drumish identity, and today dwarves can be found in all parts of the Drumish state, many having even adopted the customary white robes and traditions of the Kalistocrats themselves. Then 4606, the death of prophecy. Without any obligations to or reliance on the gods, Druma hardly felt Aradin's death directly. Instead, over the following century, the nation restructured its trade routes and policies, particularly as previously prosperous regions like modern Cheliax, Malthun, and Andoran fell into civil war and revolution. As the rest of the human world agonized over the loss of Aradin, Druma kept its trading partners intact, while capitalizing on new opportunities, including the influx of artisans fleeing war-torn regions. Although Druma's official state religion was declared to be the Kallistrade faith as soon as it acquired independence, it never explicitly prohibited other faiths. The emergence of the living deity Razmir in the north, however, instilled a sense of unease among many, particularly after his conquest of Melkat and the establishment of Razmirin as a nation in 4661. A surge of evangelists came to Kursk, initially promising a more lucrative path than the prophecies, but their methods swiftly escalated into violence as masked zealots began abducting vocal Kalistocrat opposition. This prompted the resplendent bureaucracy to impose strict restrictions on Razmiran followers within Druma. Similar restrictions were placed on other religions deemed to be socially dangerous, including worship of Norgorber, Lamashtu, and a small handful of others. Asmodeus was conspicuously absent from that list, likely a concession to their Chelish trade partners. Another recent upheaval to affect Druma occurred in 4697 when the Goblin Blood Wars broke out in Isgir. In that neighboring country, a military coalition formed by Isgir's various goblin tribes attempted to conquer the region and establish an independent goblin nation. These attacks not only imperiled Druma's trade routes and borders, but also revived old political alliances with the Isgari Kellids, many of whom shared blood ties with Druma's majority Palakari population. The Kalistocrats mobilized the Blackjackets against the goblin forces. Acting as neutral intermediaries, the Blackjackets fought the goblins alongside both the Hell Knights of Cheliax and the Eagle Knights of Andoran, ultimately helping to quell the goblin uprising. A very recent shift in policy occurred in 4717, when the High Prophet Keldor, Druma's current ruler, ordered the Mercenary League and the Blackjackets to double their recruitment and training. Only 2 years later, the Whispering Tyrant made his return to the region, bringing with him the destruction of Lastwall. Once again, the Blackjackets were deployed to help escort refugees to safety, but not out of the goodness of their heart. Keldor requested prompt payment from the personal treasuries of Watcher Overlord Ulthun II, who retreated to Absalom in the early days of the Undead Uprising. Some have wondered how Keldor knew to invest so much into his mercenary company in the years prior to the Tyrant's Wrath invasion. Did the prophecies somehow warn him of what was to come? Did he know something no one else knew? Keldor, and indeed all of the Kalistocrats, remain as ever tight-lipped about their methods. This brings us to today. Although superficially Druma appears to be a 2,000-year-old country, with its independence acquired only recently by the standards of many of the nations of Avestan, the truth is much more complex. The prophecies of Kallistrade, which have so defined the new nation of Druma, were built based on the teachings of the Pale Speakers, who were the ancient shamans of the pre-Earthfall Kellid culture of Druma. In this way, one can trace a direct lineage between the current practices of the Drumish people and their most ancient settled culture of the region, a lineage that tracks back over 11,000 years, making it actually one of the oldest traditions in the Inner Sea. Kellid religious practices have often confused outsiders. While the majority of the Inner Sea region, and indeed the vast majority of Galarian in general for that matter, is steadfastly monotheistic, or technically more accurately henotheistic, which is the practice of having a single sponsor deity but acknowledging the existence of many divinities, the Kellids have always been animists. The distinction between god, demigod, non-divine, extraplanar creature, and even the souls and spirits of the peoples, animals, and even the land itself have always been irrelevant to the ancient Kellids. The Kalistocrats adhere to this ancient view, but have adopted it for the modern era, according to the teachings of their founding prophet Kallistrade. Thus the Kalistocrats consider themselves spiritual and religious, but they are not deists, and rarely worship an individual god. However, new members are always welcomed into the fold, and no racial, gender, or financial barriers stand in the way of anyone beginning their walk down the Kalistocratic path to enlightenment. Since the Kalistocratic doctrines are not incompatible with traditional deific worship, it is possible, although rare, for some Kalistocrats to also be deists. This is particularly rare among human Palakari Kalistocrats, which represent the vast majority of that organization, but it's more common among other adopted followers. For example, a dwarven Kalistocrat that still puts Torag at the center of their personal faith. This lack of deism also means that although many of these Kalistocrats, or prophets as they are informally called, do have access to divine magic, very few of them are clerics. Most of them are instead shamans, oracles, or even witches, classes which are often pushed to the periphery of other civilized nations, but which have always served at the heart of Kellid religious traditions in the ancient world. Believers adorn themselves exclusively in white robes and wear full-length gloves to prevent contact with those who do not also follow the philosophy. Additionally, they practice sexual and dietary prohibitions. Followers of the prophecies do not just adhere to these practices based on the promise of a specific afterlife, but also for more material gains. According to the teachings of Kalistrade, this more austere life can bring clarity and purpose, which in turn will bring them personal wealth and success. The Kalistocrats consequently also believe that those who do not achieve such greatness have broken one of the many teachings of their philosophy. This means those Kalistocrats who are unfortunate in their business dealings are cast as unvirtuous in the ranks of their organization, being viewed as less devout or more lax in their adherence to the Kalistocratic doctrine. The major doctrines of the faith are as follows. Austerity in material comforts. Kalistocrats eschew many basic comforts, even when they can easily afford them. This extends to a specific diet that excludes certain types of meats or certain combinations of foods. One notable tenet of the austerity of comfort doctrine is that Kalistocrats avoid pillows. They favor hard beds and sit on chairs of hardwood, even when conferring over long negotiations. A concession to material comfort may be made for those suffering from gout or other similar ailments. Austerity in physical contact. Kalistocrats avoid physical contact with others, and wear full-body robes and full-length gloves to prevent unintended contact. They also abstain from most sexual activities except under specific allowed circumstances, typically for the siring of children within the context of a committed traditional marriage. They also condemn the practice of getting tattoos. This last part is more significant than it might first seem, since inscribing tattoos is actually a traditional Kellid custom. Working-class Kellids in Druma must choose between their family and clan traditions, and thus risking offending the new lords of Druma, or else giving their children a chance to rise in the ranks of the new aristocracy, but abandoning their close ties to clan and family. It's no easy decision, and many Kalistocrats have secret tattoos hidden on their person that date back to the days before they walked the path. Conservation of resources. Kalistocrats never deplete their resources. An example of this can be seen in the lumber industry of Macready, where they meticulously replant trees as they harvest them, ensuring they safeguard the majority of the Palakar Forest for future harvest. Wearing of white. The founding prophet made it clear that a real movement requires more than just commitment in word and deed. The commitment needs to be visual, for all to see. Kalistocrats predominantly don white garments, though those in high-ranking positions frequently flaunt their opulence with extravagant jewelry and attire atop these garments. Commitment to law. Kalistocrats dutifully adhere to the law of the land, both their own and the laws of the lands they visit when traveling. This isn't driven by a sense of fairness, but rather because legal systems offer them the means to amass and retain wealth. Using the law for profit without violating it is considered an honorable act among Kalistocrats. Kalistocrats thus actively seek to exploit loopholes in contracts and other legal agreements without technically breaching any rules. Avoidance of charity. This is a strange tenet, but it is an important one to understand the Kalistocratic worldview. Kalistocrats are encouraged never to give money freely, but are encouraged to offer loans. They can offer lenient terms if their heart compels them to, but all debts are expected to be repaid in full eventually. In their creed, money is to be given solely to those who have earned it. After death, an eternal life of one's own creation. There is one final and significant element of the Kalistocratic faith, and it concerns death. But this is a secret seventh doctrine, only shared to those proven Kalistocrats who have ascended to the upper levels of the faith. Much as the accumulation of wealth is a Kalistocrat's goal in life, their wealth plays a large role in their death. The truth is that devout followers of the prophecies of Kalistrade never undergo judgment at Pharasma's hand. The faith's hundreds of restrictions constitute a lifelong purification that culminates in self-mummification at the end of life. Throughout the years, a Kalistocrat gradually consumes trace amount of precious metals, which bind with their blood and flesh, following Kalistrade's teachings. On their deathbed, the Kalistocrat conducts an occult ritual that pumps their body with molten metals from their wealth that displaces their bodily fluids, preserving the body as a facsimile. The ritual is always lethal, after which the soul does not depart to the boneyard, but creates a mindscape, whose size corresponds to the wealth sacrificed, as the Kalistocrats bespoke eternal life. Some Kalistocrats have private afterlives, which seems a haunting and solitary concept for those uninitiated to the faith. Others have developed techniques to have shared afterlives, though the methods by which this is achieved are unclear. Some long-dead Kalistocrats have also developed the ability to move between the various afterlives of the Kalistocrats, creating a connected network of demi-planes of death, and something for which the newly dead Kalistocrats can strive for. Finally, it is believed, though unconfirmed, that these secret techniques originated with the Pale Speakers, who were similarly mummified and reside in demi-planes of their own. For more details on how demi-planes work in general, see my planar guide to demi-planes video. The government of Druma. Obviously, this specific and unique faith is one of the defining features of Druma as a nation. To say that Druma is run by the Kalistocracy, however, is only partially correct. There are functionally 3 distinct layers of power that control the nation's fate. The machinations of and privileges afforded to the Kalistocracy make them a powerful cultural and political force. But technically, the government itself is a distinct and secular entity called the resplendent bureaucracy. Of course, both the bureaucracy and the Kalistocracy must respect the overwhelming power of Druma's high prophet Keldor. The resplendent bureaucracy. Established shortly after the nation's founding by the prophets of Kalistrade, the bureaucracy was created to serve as the new nation's government. The Kalistocrats recognized the high potential for civil unrest if they seized too much power directly, and wanted to avoid appearing as the rulers of the new nation. To alleviate the concern that the Kalistocrats had taken control of the government, Druma's founders placed strict caps on how much gold a member of the resplendent bureaucracy could earn, a perfect way to dissuade Kalistocrats from full-time government appointments. The resplendent bureaucracy is comprised of hundreds of civic administrators from 2 main backgrounds. Some are low-ranking Kalistocrats seeking experience and political connections, while others are civil servants dedicated to serving the nation. In the early history of Druma, the government was dominated by humans who excluded other races from power. Efforts were later made to address this inequity, leading to more non-human positions within the bureaucracy. Today, many people from various ancestries apply for roles in the resplendent bureaucracy, with dwarves and halflings holding many positions. The bureaucracy's hierarchy consists of clerks, ranking clerks, and administrators. Administrators oversee clerks and handle broader responsibilities like construction, immigration, taxation, and waste management. Chief administrators manage settlement administrators or town mayors. A high administrator compiles data from settlements and reports to the Oversight Council, the nation's leading body. The Oversight Council, composed of 8 senior bureaucratic members, makes significant decisions for the nation. Members are chosen by those stepping down after a decade of service, though the highest position, the intercessor, is appointed by the High Prophet and holds a rarely used veto power over the Oversight Council's other decisions. This position is critical for maintaining stability when the wider Kalistocracy's influence becomes too overt, ensuring a balance of control over the government while maintaining distance. This highest civic political rank in Druma is currently held by Ulba Tudlim, a shrewd dwarf woman who meets regularly with the High Prophet Keldor. The Kalistocracy. Officially, the Kalistocracy, and the Kalistocrats that comprise this extensive priesthood of sorts, have no authority over Druma's governance, but the truth is more complicated. In fact, Kalistocrats, because of their wealth and lobbying power, not to mention their cultural influence, hold much more power than most government bureaucrats, and routinely flaunt their political reach. Newly inducted Kalistocrats rush to seize political power, and it's for this reason that many of them initially take a position within the resplendent bureaucracy, even though it limits their earning potential. There are a number of significant Kalistocrats that shape Drumish policy, and I will enumerate a few of them here. Kalistocrat Chalzo Rove has made it her goal to battle piracy along the Encarthan circuit. She believes that she can build greater rapport with her trade partners and close allies by helping keep the seas safe, and she has therefore heavily funded naval construction in the major Drumish ports. This has led her into repeated conflicts with Razmir's infamous faith barges, and she's begun gathering support within the Mercenary League to unofficially combat these threats. Another influential Kalistocrat is the dwarf Rhuzam. The dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains have struggled to build direct trade connections with the elves of Kellid, as the presence of the Tanglebriar complicates travel, prompting them to opt for Druma as a preferred trade route. Rhuzam has built her economic influence by monopolizing trade with Kellid, and is determined to restrict the involvement of other dwarves in this trade due to her practice of reselling elven goods at significantly inflated prices. Anyone involved in dwarven or elven trade in the region has likely had to work with Rhuzam or one of her agents. Another one of the most powerful and influential Kalistocrats is the ancient occult dragon named Matriculum, who presents as a tall, stern Kellid man in formal Kalistocracy gatherings. He is the only dragon known to be a member of the faith, and also acts as the mayor and protector of the small border town that shares his name. Not all the significant Kalistocrats have personal wealth and the betterment of Druma on their minds. This organization is not immune to being infiltrated by those of nefarious purpose. Vade Patronax is a tiefling Kalistocrat who poses as human. Vade seeks to fulfill a bargain his family made with the demonic harbinger Brazmoy. See my Demons of Abaddon religion video for more details on her. A forebear of his entered into this agreement to destabilize the Kalistocracy and allow Brazmoy to harvest the preserved afterlives of Druma's various dead prophets. Vade uses his economic influence and tight control over the Kahlehlin region to manipulate the nation towards his dark goal. Keldor the High Prophet. The Kalistocracy of Druma is led by a High Prophet, and this ultimate position is unique among the Kalistocracy in that it holds authority over not just the rest of the Order, but over the resplendent bureaucracy as well. Under the Curse Accord, there is a provision allowing the High Prophet to challenge and overturn the bureaucracy's decisions, although it is rarely invoked. While the High Prophet doesn't technically govern Druma directly, he does function as a head of state in formal diplomatic relations, and is inarguably the most important figure in the country. There have also, of course, been several instances in the history of the country where the High Prophet has governed more directly, by invoking his rare authority and countermanding the Oversight Council's decisions. The current High Prophet, Keldor, is renowned for his sharp business acumen and his mastery of social and economic policy. Keldor recognizes the importance of cultivating a vast network of allies and friends, including rulers of many inner-sea nations. Similar to his predecessors, Keldor resides in the Everlasting Palace, which is constructed on a private artificial island near Curse. He is safeguarded by the most elite blackjacket veterans and frequently employs magic for communication beyond the palace rather than risk traveling abroad. Each day at sunrise, Keldor reviews reports and correspondence from clerks and couriers. Then he meditates and prepares for potential spellcasting. The remainder of his day is typically filled with meetings and planning sessions involving his most trusted aides or foreign advisors and leaders. Senior Kalistocrats credit Keldor's ascension to his formidable divination abilities, which allow him to scry remote locations of the world and grant him near-prophetic insights. He also possesses a staggeringly astute mind in general. Through these powers, Keldor has amassed considerable wealth, and his power and influence continue to grow. The Druma Gazetteer. Druma is a nation divided into 4 provinces: the Argent Reach in the north, Kahlehlin in the west and south, the Palakar Forest in its center, and Rhuzam in the east. The province of the Argent Reach. The northern regions of Druma, often referred to as Kalistrade's lands, were specifically designated by Kalistrade as the potential foundation for a great nation. Today, the Argent Reach in Druma is home to some of the nation's most crucial settlements, including its capital, Curse. The reach spans along Druma's northern shoreline, extending into both the western and eastern territories. To the northeast, the border towns of the Argent Reach and Kellid maintain a somewhat uneasy peace, influenced by the historical tensions between the Kalistocrats and the elves. Conversely, Druma's western borders remain relatively relaxed, despite the High Prophet's awareness of Malthun's imperialistic ambitions. Important locations in the Argent Reach. Curse. Often dubbed the wealthiest city in Golarion, the capital of Druma is situated along the Gulf of Accord's southern edge. Curse's grandeur and affluence are on full display in its opulent streets, marking it as a city in a league of its own. Curse is composed of multiple districts. The Manor District. Nestled in the city's northeastern corner, the Manor District caters to the city's elite. While the term manor might imply sprawling estates, the reality is more compact, with even the smallest parcels of land costing hundreds of thousands of gold pieces. Key locations include the Airy Club, an exclusive establishment catering to the rich, and Pasad's Mansion, home to Temel Pasad, who maintains a unique open relationship with the Pathfinder Society. The Resplendent District. This district houses much of Druma's governance and acts as a buffer zone between the city and the High Prophet's sanctum. Notable landmarks include the esteemed bureaucratic foundation, the seat of power for Druma's government, and the Mercenary League headquarters, a crucial hub for the city's protection. The Trade District. Kurce's Trade District is a bustling marketplace where traders from all over the world converge. While smaller than metropolises like Absalom, it offers remarkable and unique items, making it a vibrant centre of commerce. The Cerulean Docks, the Sublime Square, and the clandestine Far Market are some of the noteworthy locations here. The Pilgrimage District. Catering to non-Kalistocrats and visitors without direct connection to the prophets of Kalistrade, the Pilgrimage District boasts immaculate structures and is maintained to the highest architectural standards. Locations of interest include the Barbarous Arena, the popular Unanointed Inn, and Verity Inquiries run by Pal Cusdy, which specializes in providing assistance in navigating the complexities of the Kalistocrats and the government officials. The High Prophet's Sanctum. This stands as an artificial island separate from the rest of Kurce and is considered sovereign territory. It is heavily protected by the Mercenary League and features the Everlasting Palace, where the High Prophet Keldor oversees the Kalistocracy's worldly affairs. The Gems of Kalistrade houses Druma's historical relics and documents, with each tower focusing on different aspects of Druma's history. The Immaculate Path serves as the only bridge connecting the sanctum to the city. Beyond the city's borders, the landscape comprises well-tended forests and open plains. The High Prophet holds significant portions of these lands, more evidence of his vast wealth and power. Other notable countryside areas of Greater Kurce include the Ophidian Estate, which has been under the Aspis Consortium's influence for generations, and the mysterious Trimmed Maze, a dense and bewildering forest labyrinth populated by fey creatures. Beyond the capital city, the Argent Reach includes several other important settlements and points of interest. Razgora. Situated along the Malthuni border, the Keep of Razgora, comprised of a fortress and some small land situated directly around it, is technically a remote city-state of the Obgoblin nation of Oprak, and not a Drumish settlement at all. Originally home to displaced goblinoids following the Chelish occupation of Malthun, warlord Razgora, who founded the place, and his forces established a fort at the border, and threatened to raid Druma's western reaches. Their efforts were thwarted by the Kalistocrat Alestria of Detmer. The hobgoblins were not wiped out, however, and the Keep of Razgora remained. The Kalistocrats eventually realized that there was value in having the hobgoblin presence at their border, as the hobgoblins functioned effectively as border guards, deterring Malthuni raiders from entering Drumish lands. Since the Ironfang Legion of General Azursi and the establishment of the nation of Oprak along the Minespins, the remote hobgoblin settlement has opened trade relations with the Opraki, acting as a remote satellite city. Once again, the Drumish have preferred not to push out the hobgoblins of Razgora, as General Azursi's great wealth from her deep ties to the elemental plane of Earth have made it suddenly a more interesting trade partner. Razgora has been located in Drumish territory for many generations now, and it's not uncommon to see Razgoran hobgoblins well integrated into other Drumish cities, with a few of them even numbering among the Kalistocratic prophets. Detmer. A city renowned for its maritime craftsmanship, Detmer has a long history. It can be traced back to the unearthing of ancient human vessels that can be found along the shores of Lake Incarthan. This ancient Kellid village was eventually converted into the dwarven fortress of Detmer, constructed to protect the western reaches of Druma. The old dwarven city of Detmer was destroyed due to flooding, and it wasn't until thousands of years later that a Kalistocrat initiative aimed at quietly acquiring dwarven assets persuaded a dwarven partnership to reclaim the ruins of Detmer. This second founding capitalized on the naturally sheltered cove and employed dwarven engineering expertise. Techniques borrowed from Kragadan were used to create a complex system of freight elevators, which efficiently transport personnel and supplies from the cove to the upper city, established atop a nearby cliff. To commemorate the role of the prophets in ending the long-standing conflicts following the Curse Accord, an impressive image of the city's founding prophet was carved into the cliff face above the cove. Over time, Detmer has evolved into the most prominent naval shipyard in Druma, and the entire Lake Incarthan region. Generations of dwarves have mastered the art of ship construction and repair within Detmer's shipyards. The city also made a concerted effort to attract aquatic races, particularly Undines, to assist with dock work, resulting in the establishment of a significant Undine population. Detmer's key locations include the Clifftop Auberge, situated just west of the upper city's centre, which serves travellers and those using the land path connecting Druma and Malthun. The Sapphire Harbour, aptly named due to its sparkling waters and gemstone-lined walls, stands as one of the most well-defended naval outposts on Lake Incarthan. Shipmaster Zaboff manages the bustling harbor, catering to the needs of visiting ships, including the infamous Black and Gold Mercenary League cutters. The upper city center hosts vibrant open markets, and they serve as a hub for trade, information, and job opportunities. Wealthy patrons and ship captains frequent the taverns and search for crew members for expeditions around Lake Carthan and beyond. Vasand's sublime antiquary endeavors, managed by Iradi Vasand, operates as a diverse business, collecting and trading various items and information. She also regularly hires adventurers to explore the Lake Carthan region and seek out hidden relics. Old Detmer. Old Detmer is an underwater archaeological site located northeast of Detmer. The ruins are a combination of the old dwarven city that collapsed into the bay and the ruins of an even older Kellid culture that existed along the Silver Shore before the coming of the dwarves. These latter ruins resemble the Macready Blade culture in some ways, but clearly developed independently. The sunken site features ancient standing stones and are protected by gemstone wards that have complicated exploration. Spectral undead protect both parts of the sunken city, though they've been known to only show open hostility to those who desecrate or steal from the ruins. Matriculum's Charge. Matriculum's Charge, with a population of nearly 500, was formerly known as the village of Hillsprung. The town was renamed after Matriculum, an ancient occult dragon, came to its rescue against goblinoid threats. In exchange for their safety, the townspeople petitioned the High Prophet for an audience with Matriculum, resulting in the dragon's mysterious return wearing the white and gold robes of the prophet. Matriculum is, as far as anyone knows, the only draconic adherent to the Kalistrade faith. He continues to serve as the town's protector and mayor, and is a growing voice within the devout ranks of the Kalistocracy. The Jailed Emergence. The Jailed Emergence is a sinkhole guarded by the Mercenary League, believed to be one of the Orcs' original emergence points during the Age of Darkness. This sinkhole leads deep into the Darklands, and is close to the Darkland elf settlement of Giratane. Although the Darkland elves have often been reviled by the surface peoples of Golarion for their demon worship and violent natures, the Drumish have managed this relationship with Giratane as they have with all their neighbors, through trade and profit. The Giratane Darkland elves are therefore the least xenophobic of all the Dark Elves of Golarion, and have the most open relation with the surface cultures. Many Giratane Dark Elves are welcomed to the surface by the Kalistocrats, and consequently Dark Elves are more common in Druma than they are in any other civilized nation in the Inner Sea. Twingate. Twingate is a unique settlement characterized by 2 stone towers connected by a stone bridge and surrounded by a sea of white canvas tents. Aspiring supplicants seek entry into the Kalistocracy by entreating the Kalistocratic elite residing within these towers. Grand Kalistocrat Shalbritius oversees the selection process, picking those worthy of joining the lower ranks of the prophets. An incident 12 years ago involving a group of Razmiran faith barges attempting to interfere with the aspiring applicants forced Shalbritius and her allies to protect the settlement. The overwhelming force with which the Grand Kalistocrat and her blackjackets defeated the Razmiran invaders served to showcase the Kalistocracy's power to the aspirants, and their numbers have actually swelled ever since. The Vault of the Impostor Goblin. The Vault of the Impostor Goblin is a strange sight in Druma's western fields. Covered in graffiti depicting various mummified goblins, it has a stone entryway leading to a mysterious complex below. Legends tell of an old Kalistocrat who was revealed to be a goblin sorcerer of great intellect. At the time, goblinoids were not welcome among the ranks of the faithful, and when he was exposed, he retreated into this vault and was never seen again. Some view these tales skeptically, suggesting the interior may be a conventional burial vault or some other such site. The Mourning Burrows. This ancient ruin site once served as a burial ground for the Palakari Kellids. Recently, Razmiran insurgents have taken up residence within its interconnected tunnels. Despite having secretly seized this land, various factors have prevented the insurgents from making significant moves against Druma. Partly this is due to the vigilance of the Kalistocrats and the Blackjackets, but also it is due to the failing faith of the insurgent leader. Recent reports indicate the latest leader of the Mourning Burrows claims to have discovered the true living god deep within the burrows, perhaps having discovered an ancient Kellid mummy or similar force. Cutter's Holdout. During the expansion of Druma between 2450 and 2632, Cutter's Holdout emerges a village driven by the profit-seeking ambitions of Kalistocrats who aim to exploit the valuable woods of the nearby Fiorani Forest. However, this economic boom was short-lived, as the return of elves to Golarion led to severe defeats for the Kalistocrats and the unprepared Mercenary League soldiers stationed there. The situation teetered on the brink of warfare until the High Prophet himself intervened, ordering an end to the hostilities against Keonin's returning forces. Today, Qatar's holdout stands as a unique village, with a population of around 200 residents. It resides in disputed territory, claimed by both Druma and Keonin, but tries to maintain a friendly relation with its elven neighbours in the Riverspire settlement across the way. Symbolic displays of national flags and gift exchanges across the Endawar River foster goodwill between the two communities, but these also hide a lingering cold tension. The province of Kahlehlin, often called the Southern Hills by Drumish humans, the southlands of Druma were historically known as Kahlehlin, meaning the Metal Hills, in the former Dwarven tongue. This name reflects the abundant mineral wealth found in the region. Although the dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains didn't tap into these resources for a long time, they established mines shortly before the Curse Accord granted Druma its independence. These dwarven engineered mines continue to operate, a common sight for adventurers and merchants traversing these arid hills. The Southern Hills harbor a diverse mix of inhabitants, including brigands, freedom fighters, and renegades seeking refuge from the Kalistocracy's control. This harsh and rocky terrain provides a sanctuary for those disillusioned by the ruling prophets. Paradoxically, it is also home to the settlement most notorious for converting newcomers and guiding them on the path to the Kalistocracy. That settlement is the provincial capital of Petitioner's Port. Situated at the mouth of the Prophet's Flow River, Petitioner's Port has a rich history dating back 6 centuries when it served as a military fort during Taldor's exploration. It connects Druma to the rest of the world through riverboat services and established trade routes. Today it remains the southern gateway to Druma, welcoming travelers from Isgur, Andoran, Cheliax, and more distant lands. Riverboats navigate the Prophet's Flow, connecting Petitioner's Port to Curse, Macready, and various settlements through well-worn roads. Built predominantly from sturdy redwood harvested near Macready, Petitioner's Port is a bustling settlement. Sturdy wooden docks support riverboats of all sizes, with goods flowing in and out daily. The executive seat, presided over by Chief Administrator Wernbrandt, stands as the city's seat of governance. Vaults beneath the building house extensive records of past generations, from immigrants seeking entry into the Kalistocracy to trade agreements forged over centuries. Notable figures and businesses in the city include Hensa's Caravan Guards. Hensa Scaffsworth, a lively half-orc swashbuckler, offers her services as a guide and protector to visitors, capitalizing on the town's reputation for remoteness. Sineherd Imports and the Petronax Villa. Led by Selnus Sineherd and Tativian Petronax respectively, both of these major trading houses specialize in goods from Cheliax and Isgur. A mercantile feud has been growing here between the two merchant princes, with open violence spilling out into the streets on more than one occasion. As might be obvious from the name, Tativian Petronax is a cousin of the notorious and influential Kalistocrat Vaid Petronax, but the degree to which he is aware of Vaid's ambitions is not known. Vinnigan's Fineries. Owned by Salya and Tamaya Vinnigan, this is a premier clothier in the port, and serves as a hub for rumour sharing. Many visitors stop by to chat with Tamaya, who has her ear close to the ground when it comes to all the local gossip. The Sturdy Sword. The Ilfin man Alfar Thormgild has won the hearts of the locals with his exceptional forge skills and charm. Most dwarven competitors eventually close their businesses to work with him, and anyone seeking finely crafted equipment can find it at the Sturdy Sword, though custom orders may require patience due to Alfar's extensive backlog of commissioned work. In addition to the provincial capital of Petitioner's Port, the Kahlehlin province includes several other significant points of interest. Alabastrine. After the death of prophecy, many members of the Kalistocracy imagined the death of a god would result in a great swell of migrants who had come seeking a religion not tied to a specific deity. Some Kalistocrats were so sure this would happen, in fact, that they constructed Alabastrine to accommodate a diaspora of former Aridin worshippers, but this influx of migrants never came. The former Aridanites largely remained deists and simply switched to other gods, most commonly Iomedae. For many years, Alabastrine was a weird, empty city. The High Prophet Keldor acquired Alabastrine cheaply at auction only 10 years ago, and at his encouragement it has started to grow, though its population still doesn't justify the scale of construction that took place there over 100 years ago. The Petronax Estate. The Petronax Estate is located just south of Petitioner's Port in the foothills of the Five Kings Mountains. It is a vast manor estate, and is heavily fortified with magical wards. Vaid Petronax, the patriarch of the family, as mentioned in my section on the Kalistocracy, is a powerful Kalistocrat with a nefarious purpose. He is committed to achieving a form of ascension after death by offering the sealed afterlives of Druma's Kalistocracy to the demonic harbinger Brazemoy. New Gelleg. Located in the southern foothills of Druma, New Gelleg is a town where the Kalistocracy's reach is weakest. Led by Mayor Falhir Suvasti, this settlement serves as a refuge for those seeking to evade the Prophet's strict customs and laws. It also functions as a central hub for the insurgency against the Kalistocracy, with a focus on subtlety to avoid a direct confrontation with the Kalistocrats and the skilled blackjacket mercenaries who serve them. The Crimson Light Dig. Naturally, since the founding prophet himself was interested in their culture, the Kalistocracy has continued to seek out evidence of their forebears' originating culture. The Crimson Light Dig is one such example of a recent archaeological site in southern Druma that has the potential to unveil numerous secrets related to the Macready blade culture. The site was discovered after prospectors unearthed glowing red stones, along with numerous ancient blades built in the Macready style. The buried structure here is substantive, maybe even being a burial crypt for the speakers of the Pale, but the primary purpose of the structure remains a mystery, as the archaeologists here have been unable to open it and enter. The ruins of Rivasi. The ruins of a large dwarven city here have traded hands a few times since Drumish independence, but were never fully restored. The Kalistocrats have always maintained official ownership of Rivasi's ruins, though due to lack of investment in repairs, it was never settled by lawful folks. Instead, it became a gathering point for radical anti-Kalistocracy rebels. Here, exiles, outlaws, and rebels found places to lie low within the ruins. Most recently, a new leader has emerged, an unusually intelligent hill giant named Trogurst. He has press-ganged exiles and bandits alike into his growing force. Though he's done little so far beyond extort explorers and rebels, Trogurst's forces continue to grow, and he might soon become a threat to nearby settlements. Guildside. About 150 years ago, prospectors stumbled upon a wealth of precious metals, including gold and platinum, nestled within the walls of Rancor Canyon in southern Druma. The province's wealthy and influential Patronax family swiftly claimed ownership rights over the canyon, refocusing their modest mercantile operations in that area towards exploiting these newfound gem and ore deposits. Guildside, the resulting settlement, possesses a unique vertical design with interconnected pulleys and lifts facilitating movements across 6 levels, all crafted from stone and wood. The carved vaults serve as residences and storage for Guildside's inhabitants. The province of the Palakar Forest. The mighty Palakar Forest stands at the heart of Druma, its ancient trees having borne witness to the cataclysmic events of Earthfall and the prolonged period of dwarven rule. Within this forest's depths reside a diverse array of fae, organized into 3 distinct courts that have naturally claimed their territories along the Prophet's Flow and the Great Goldpan River. The fae here faced their gravest threat during the Charcoal Wars, a conflict resulting from a breakdown in dwarven fae negotiations. During these tumultuous times, both sides suffered heavy losses, as the dwarves, losing their usual restraint, set fire to vast sections of the forest. To this day, remnants of this fiery conflict lie buried deep within the soil, marked by the charred and desolate remains of once vibrant trees, etching this dark chapter into the woodland's history. The provincial capital here is the ancient city of Macready, the oldest settlement in Druma, and arguably one of the oldest settlements in the entire continent. It is nestled in the heart of the Palakar, where the Great Goldpan and the Prophet's Flow converge. The town's significance to the Drumish people is due in part to the archaeological endeavors that unearthed the relics of the ancient pre-Earthfall Kellid society known as the Macready blade culture. The economy of modern Macready is concentrated in 3 areas: crafting, logging, and trade. The forest's wood is meticulously harvested, transformed into an impressive array of goods by skilled artisans, and traded along the adjacent rivers. Through the oath of everlasting friendship, a long-standing pact with the 3 fae courts that encircle Macready, the town thrives by practicing conservative logging techniques and replanting trees, preserving harmonious relations with the woodlands, and aligning with the prophecies of Calistrade's conservation principle. Places of interest in the city include the Assembly Institute. The stone building adorned with silver filigree serves as a center for intensive training, where prophets and blackjackets collaborate. Blackjackets meticulously study the Kalistocrats here to predict their needs and commands, as well as the potential actions of rival Kalistocrats. Simultaneously, Kalistocrats acquire insights into personal protection and combat tactics from the Mercenary League soldiers. While initially established in Macready to avoid cosmopolitan influences, the presence of the whimsical fae has led to unanticipated learning opportunities between paired blackjackets and Kalistocrats. Occasionally the Frey's pranks go too far, prompting the city to enlist adventurers to maintain the ongoing accord between Macready and the Fae. Best Fit Furnishings. Operated by Fay-S, a deaf elven carpenter skilled in crafting exquisite darkwood furniture, this shop faces an overwhelming demand that exceeds his capabilities. Fay-S works tirelessly, but the pressure takes its toll as he strives to meet client expectations and maintain his impeccable quality. Fanciful Inquiries. In a city surrounded by Fae, locals often blame them for their troubles, and they bring their concerns to fanciful inquiries. Sorsmig Koob, an intermediary with local Fae courts, solves mysteries by navigating the shifting attitudes of each court. Investigations come at a steep cost, however, leading many of Macready's affluent citizens to hire other adventurers who offer more affordable rates. This arrangement suits Sorsmig and her associates, who also happen to provide services as guides into the nearby forest. Kahlehlin Sawmill. Situated on Macready's eastern edge, this iconic sawmill only processes trees during a single work shift from dawn to dusk. Though the mill only operates during the day, at night loggers in southern Palakar attach magical lights to felled trees and transport them down the Prophet's Flow, where the late-night crew collect them. This process maintains efficiency and requires vigilant staff, even though the mill isn't active around the clock. Recently, the mill's owner, Kalistocrat Danum Karland, considered seeking help from newcomers due to a pressing issue. Several drowned bodies, including locals and Fae, have been discovered tied to lumber arriving from up the stream. Sanctitude Saunas. This communal facility features a series of chambers for relaxation and spiritual cleansing. Magically powered springs produce steam and heat that billow onto heated coals, with each room separated by thick glass bricks to obscure vision. Kalistocrats may use private chambers for extended periods as an act of personal piety. Local workers enjoy larger communal chambers funded by the Kalistocrats. These prophets recognize the importance of offering amenities to Macready's labor force to maintain the town's exceptional quality of goods and labor. These saunas not only provide a unique attraction for weary travelers, but also serve as a place to meet locals, engage in gossip, and unwind from the rigors of the road. Macready also operates numerous logging encampments throughout the Palakar, with different camps scattered throughout the forest. Some notable camps include Sanix Point, located in the western Palakar, Fort Redstone, situated within the Satyr realm, and Axfell, which is known to attract young lumberjacks hoping to encounter the Hesperid nymphs, although such encounters are rare due to the nymphs' disdain for logging. Another camp known as Reaver's Right mysteriously stopped reporting in recently. Explorers have found the camp abandoned, filled with mysterious and oddly shaped blighted trees. Other important locations beyond the provincial capital in the Palakar Forest include the Cedar Court. The Dryad Court is a secluded gathering of ancient dryad trees deep in northwestern Palakar, and it is led by Rhuzam, an aging druid. The Cedar Court is part of the Oath of Everlasting Friendship, and remains reclusive, only opening up when it's necessary. However, a troubling rot has affected some trees in the court, notably Rhuzam's own tree, raising concerns about the future of the court and its influential leader. Elder Rhuzam also oversees a series of secret portals into the First World, known as the Tearways. The Dryads here take great pains to hide the portals to prevent outsiders from exploiting them. The Pulgari Estate. Hidden in a cave in the Palakar Forest, a hidden portal remained unnoticed for centuries, until a Kalistocrat from Macready named Bridden Pulgari discovered it while constructing his manor above the site. Pulgari harbored a secret allegiance to the Archdevil Mammon, and saw this discovery as a unique opportunity. Despite his initial struggles to activate the portal, he eventually recognized an infernal script within the rings of a tree, and he deciphered it. In 4689, Pulgari successfully reactivated the portal, but it unleashed roiling flames that fatally consumed him in the process. The activation of this permanent portal to Hell drew the attention of a gate archon named Ambethus, who had spent millennia scouring the material plane for such breaches. Ambethus, bound by duty to protect interplanar gateways, came to the caves beneath Pulgari's manor. He dedicated years of effort to closing the portal, but ultimately conceded defeat. Instead, he has taken on the role of guarding the portal to prevent anyone from using it for nefarious purpose. Ambethus now remains here on the material plane, collaborating with the local Fae to conceal the manor and portal from prying eyes. With very few exceptions, Ambethus has successfully maintained his defenses over the portal for decades, protecting it from demons, devils, and mortals with ill intentions. The Desolation Blade Mounds. Mysterious mounds of hardened clay in the western part of Palakar have puzzled archaeologists. Originally mistaken for Macready blade culture mounds, they are now recognized as belonging to another distinct Kellid civilization. The investigation is ongoing, with findings including magical flint knives, alongside symbols of a pale hand and a blackened blade. The Court of Endless Revelry. The Court of Endless Revelry is the second of the three major Fey courts in the Palakar, a mobile congregation of satyrs that claim dominion over the eastern woodland. These spirited Fey wander through the forest, holding exuberant and highly energetic festivities. Unlike the other Fey factions, this court's leadership is decentralized. Their raucous celebrations, accompanied by music and dancing, can always be heard from miles away. The Court of Seasons. The Hesperids of the southern Palakar are protective of their territory and maintain a cautious distance from outsiders. They do participate in the Oath of Everlasting Friendship by allowing Macready's loggers limited access to their realm, but they are the most hesitant to do so. The Lady Cirella presides over the Court of Seasons, and she maintains a great glade of rocks, rushing water, and sturdy trees that act as the seat of the nymph's realm. The Province of Rhuzam. Rhuzam was once the seat of dwarven power and colonized Druma before Drumish independence, but since that time it has transformed into a region within Druma known for its patriotism and even a degree of human-centric elitism. This area retains its name from its historical dwarven provincial title during the days of the Five Kings Mountains' rule. As a border province, Rhuzam boasts robust security and patrols, making it the second most well-defended region in the nation apart from the Cursed Delta. Its absence of crime, its well-traveled trade routes, and its numerous small villages may have contributed to its recent growth over the past 3 centuries. Rhuzam is a region known for its many modern settlements, as well as having a rich history highlighted by the many ancient remnants that dot its plains, including dwarven and Kellid ruins that date back to the Age of Darkness and beyond. The provincial capital of Rhuzam is Prophet's Home. This is a heavily fortified city and one of Druma's most well-defended settlements. It is not only a traditional city, but also a training ground for the renowned Blackjackets. The city features a sturdy stone wall enclosing its borders, effectively dividing it into 2 halves. At its center stands the imposing fortress of 1,000 shields, which serves as the ultimate citadel for the Mercenary League. It is named after the hundreds of shields displayed along its walls, each one belonging to a League member or a famous hero from Druma's history. In addition to serving as the centerpiece of the League's power, members of the Kalistocratic elite in Prophet's Home often rent wings within this secure fortress to hold meetings and carry out their various mercantile affairs. Surrounding the 1,000 shields are the muster grounds. Comprising numerous communal barracks and mess halls, these training grounds prepare aspirants for working in the prestigious Mercenary League. High Marshal Randallson oversees the rigorous training regimen, although her methods face criticism for the high death toll among League aspirants, particularly from southern dissidents. In addition to the 1,000 Shields Fortress, other important locations in Prophet's Home include the Kadarabi Villa, a meticulously restored structure owned by Kalistocrat Nishitani Mahari. It showcases a Tien aesthetic and offers tours to visitors. Nishitani, an immigrant from Po Li, the Tian province that once served as the capital for the entire empire of Lunghua, owns the villa. Although nominally sworn to the Kalistocracy, Nishitani is rumored to keep secret ties to Po Li's oracular council, located half a world away. Prolek Arms and Armor. The only independent smithy in Prophet's Home, owned by a traditionalist Kellid named Andrei Prolek, he maintains discreet connections with Druma's southern foothill dissidents and has taught himself to forge weapons in the style of the Macready blade culture. The School of the Arcane. A blackened tower near the 1,000 Shields serves as a testing ground for respective Magistrum Yul Vadat. Here the half-elf Magus educates other arcanists, and also worryingly studies lost secrets that she discovered while exploring the Whispering Tyrant's old capital of Adarak before his resurrection. Beyond the provincial capital, the province of Rhuzam includes other points of interest as well. Petalgate. This former mining settlement now serves as the official embassy between Druma and the Five Kings Mountains. The upper reaches of the old mines house dwarven representatives, while the surface features spires and mansions owned by various human diplomats and their attendants. Notable Kalistocrats maintain temporary residences here for trade negotiations with influential merchants from the dwarven territories. The Torch Orchard. Disguised as an exclusive retreat for wealthy merchants belonging to an exclusive club, the Torch Orchard in fact hosts followers of Mephistopheles, the archdevil of contracts and secrets. It operates as a meeting place for the Airy Club, which aims to expand the cult's influence within the Kalistocracy. The Splendid Statuary. Just south of Prophet's Home, there is a vast estate known for its impressive statues. It serves as both a display and showcase from Druma's most talented sculptors, many of whom live here directly under sponsorship of the manor's owner, and also as a showroom for the sale of their pieces as well. Some statues are crafted with magic, giving some minor animation or the ability to respond to commands. Owned by the Kalistocrat Jürgen Crest, the estate is always looking for skilled artisans and new ways to increase profits. The Folly of the Feast. The site now called the Folly of the Feast was once one of the earliest orc settlements. After their emergence ahead of the dwarven quest for the sky, orcs delighted in terrorizing the Kellid people, who sheltered in the long darkness that followed the earthfall. Driven by their shamans, the orcs rounded up 782 Kellids from the surrounding lands and brought them to the heart of a temporary settlement as part of a grand sacrifice to Nulgareth, the orc god of blood. Dark magic cursed the soil, and powerful ancient Kellid spirits lingered here long after the orcs were defeated. Gullshire. Gullshire, an exclusive hamlet, specializes in breeding and training exotic animals highly sought after by Druma's social elite. With an extensive waiting list for suppliers, it offers Kalistocrats and socialites a chance to acquire these prestigious animals, making it a must-visit destination for those seeking these coveted creatures. The Drumish elite love rare animals to serve as familiars and animal companions, and among the most in-demand species are the Bacalia, a rare breed of alpaca with voluminous shiny wool, the Culia, a small frilled reptile with baby-smooth scales, and the Tahati, a fat, fluffy ground squirrel with exceptionally long ears. The Ashen Bulwark. The Ashen Bulwark was constructed by dwarves who worshipped the evil deity Droskar, the Dark Smith, during the dreadful period known as the Ordric Theocracy. This colossal fortress was constructed nominally as a defensive structure, but also to antagonize Druma, and possibly even to stage a conquest of it, if the Theocracy had ever managed to secure total control over the Five Kings' territories. Although the fell place now houses only a skeleton crew of occupants, since Ordric's regime fell, the ominous structure continues to loom as a symbol of the long history of aggression between the two nations. The Vault of the Forgotten Prophet. The Vault of the Forgotten Prophet is a burial complex hidden beneath the plains of western Druma. It lacks any doors, although its interior is accessible through certain powerful teleportation magic. This secretive compound contains the vault of one of Druma's oldest and most powerful Kalistocrats, rumored to be one of the few whose private afterlives allows him to confer with visitors to his crypt. This site is further hidden through magical camouflage, making it a challenging place to locate and explore. Lipero. Lipero, located near the Great Goldpan River, is a larger example of many wealthy villages of the Rhuzam province. Here, young children eagerly search for rare golden ore along the river's shores. The gold ore that can be panned in the river have made local Kalistocrat Alastia Vin correspondingly wealthy and influential across the Rhuzam province.